stand for the pledge.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Present.
Present.
Here.
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 Present.
All right. Item 2.09, the approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as presented this evening.
Second.
There's a motion and a second on the floor to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
item 12.01, among the 14 items that are listed, I've submitted a recommendation that is not among the 14. Can it be added?
Can you tell us what it is?
It was to move personnel above discipline during closed session.
We can certainly, does anyone, we'll add that to the list and vote.
Thank you.
Thank you for reminding me.
Ready.
All in favor of approving the agenda with the addition? Opposed? Okay. Public comment.
Rules for public comment. 1, identify yourself by name and 911 address. 2, speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Individuals may not reserve, otherwise transfer the time to another speaker. Excuse me. 4, special personnel matters must not be initiated at public meeting. Speakers cannot be abusive, threatening, or use profanity. 6, specify the nature of your remarks. 7, speakers who have previously spoken on a subject for public comment shall not be allowed to readdress the board during the same public comment period. 8, specific questions should be resolved prior to the meeting by contact with the superintendent or the appropriate staff member. 9, anyone who would like to present a PowerPoint presentation for public comment has to present the presentation 24 hours in advance for review by the staff for appropriateness. 10, all questions shall be directed to the chairman or chairperson, who will, at his or her discretion, solicit the response from the appropriate staff member.
Mr. Ricardo.
My name is Bill McCarter, I live in Hancock. I suspect. Top right here. Jim, go back. My name's Bill McCarter, I live in Hancock. And, we're here to talk about last, my school board meeting. I suspect you might get an earful tonight, but not from me. I respect you come out here and the hard work that you do. But I have to tell you, I was riding in the car, I have a son who's 12, and 2 of his buds were in the car, and they were talking about the discussion of who sit at the table. And I want you to think about the kind of lesson that might extend to young people. Dr. Hall has earned a seat at this table. And I want to urge you to leave any agendas that you might have at the door. If, from the way I see it, you have a job to do 2 things. And it's a pretty straightforward if you think of it in those terms. We need to provide resources to our schools, and then most importantly, good teachers. put good teachers in the classroom and you take care of them, then political agendas or who's left or right or any of that stuff gets washed out over time. And you don't have to worry about it. Good teachers. I know we can't pay them $1 million, but the way to hold on to good teachers is to treat them right, treat them with respect. I hope you guys have a good evening. I hope it's not too long. I got here early and signed up first because I thought it might be a while. Okay? I really, really respect what you do. And I'm grateful that we have people who will come out here and come to these meetings, which I know may not always be fun. And you show up at school functions because I see you. This is the 5th child that I've had throughout my family. They've all done well. Okay, they've all done well. We want to continue to see what they do. Good teachers. Thank you very much.
Alicia Tanger.
Good evening. My name is Alicia Tanger from Painter, Virginia, and I will be speaking on behalf of the NAACP Committee on Education. In observation of Black History Month, the Accomack County Branch NAACP wishes to extend our prayers and appreciation to Dr. Rhonda Hall, who has ascended to the office of Superintendent of Accomack County Public Schools. Her academic preparation, leadership qualities, perseverance, and tenacity have been a great inspiration to our community. Dr. Hall is the first African American and first woman to hold the office of superintendent. Only 1.4% of school districts in America are led by Black women. This places Dr. Hall among an elite yet underrepresented group of women educators nationwide. Many great women in history paved the way for her. She stands on the shoulders of Sojourner Truth, a former slave who spoke powerfully about equal rights for women in her 1851 speech that included a repetition of the phrase, "Ain't I a woman?" Harriet Tubman, a Maryland Eastern Shore woman who, after escaping slavery, returned and led over a dozen escape missions as a conductor on the Underground Railroad and later fought for equal rights for women. Mary McLeod Bethune, an educator and daughter of former slaves, who opened one of the first schools for African American girls in this country. And let us not forget the legacy of a plethora of local African American female educators who taught in Accomack County. These include women such as Miss Mary Nottingham Smith, Miss Undine Trent, Miss Estelle Parker, Miss Katie Dean, Mistress Myrtle Wharton and her sister Miss Roberta Wharton, and Miss Nola Dennis, who at age 95 still imparts wisdom. In closing, we encourage you, Dr. Hall, to maintain focus and strive to make Accomack County Public Schools one of the greatest divisions in the state. We love you, we support you, and we are praying for you. Presented on behalf of Bishop David A. Sabatino, President, Accomack County Branch, NAACP.
Myra Riley Taylor.
Good evening. I am Myra Riley Taylor. The address in which I reside is 19387 Dogwood Drive in Norfolk, Virginia. I am here tonight on behalf of my mother, Peggy Riley Corbin, who was an educator in Accomack County Public Schools for over 30 years. She looked at the post this week and she was in disarray. Disarray at the fact that what's happening in the Accomack County Public School system. And she looked at me and she said, what is truly happening there? Where are we going and where are we coming from? So she was very much concerned about what is happening today. Not only with the seating, but with the education of the children in Accomack County. She sends a message to the board, and her message is, get back to the education of the children in Accomack County, put the seating aside, and let's educate the children. Let's get teachers in the positions that are qualified, and let's move forward. So again, I bring the message from Peggy Raleigh Corbin to the board. I too, Myra Raleigh Taylor, am a product of Accomack County Public Schools. I attended schools before segregation at Hancock High School, which was predominantly white, and moved on through the ranks and graduated from Hancock High School in 1979. I furthered my education at Norfolk State University, acquiring a degree in math with an emphasis in business. I too am in disarray at what's happening in Accomack County Public Schools. And I would ask this question to the board. If any of the previous superintendents were here tonight, would there be an issue this evening? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Cheryl Walker. I reside at 27124 Redwood Road in Hancock, Virginia. In the article, White Bricks New School Boards Ascension in the Eastern Shore Post on January 26, 24, I want to focus on a sentence, and it states, the school board also distributed a list of possibilities for changing its meeting, including making Superintendent Rhonda Hall sit with staff in the audience instead of her current seat among the elected school board members. After reading that, I felt a slew of restless emotions, not because of the years of dedications, challenges, and amount of obstacles our present superintendent has endured in her relentless quest to continually enforce Accomack County Public Schools' mission and vision statement, but the possibilities mentioned are being distributed at a time when there are more important concerns than one being a seating. For example, retention of employees, lack of sufficient staffing, attendance, cell phones, how to meet and exceed standards, to name a few. I did my research, and my first attention was the school board's composition. The Accomack County School Board is composed of non-citizens who have been elected for 4-year terms. Policies set by the school board are administered by the superintendent of the school, who serves as the chief executive officer of the school board. So I wonder, what is the rationale of this proposal? In the Accomack County Public School Policy Manual, the officers of the school board are the chairman and vice chairman. Therefore, it is proper and right that they have a seat on the dais. Since members of the school board are also seated, in my opinion, it is proper and right that the superintendent, who serves as the chief executive officer of the school board, remains seated on the dais. According to the school board's code of ethics, number 4, it states, I will make policy decisions based on available facts and appropriate public input. Since 1978 to the present, I've served under 7 superintendents, including interim superintendents. After decades of protocol inherently established, why is removal of the superintendent from this dais now being considered? Number 6 states, I will encourage individual board members' expression of opinion and establish open, two-way communication process with all segments of the community. Eastern Shore Post, February 9th, should Rhonda Hall sit at the school board's table? I quote, having Hall sit elsewhere will show the public our willingness to govern without undue influence of any one person. The words that puzzle me are undue influence of any one person. I definitely do not want to jump to a conclusion that undue influence is being projected to be a character trait of our present superintendent. I know for a fact that integrity and professionalism is at the forefront of her personality. The establishment of an open two-way communication process with all segments of the community is much needed. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Hello, my name is Kiana Matt, and I reside on Dogwood Drive, Memphis, Virginia. I am standing here as a concerned teacher. I don't typically read the local paper due to the lack of information and more so opinions. It seems like we care more about where Dr. Hall is sitting than the important issues that our district is facing. I feel as if we're focusing on the wrong things. I am a product of Accomack County Public Schools. We have bigger issues such as our district is struggling with the lack of instructional assistants, being pulled to cover classrooms, teachers being mentally burned out due to the lack of substitutes, extra help. I can't tell you the last time I actually had a productive day or week of small groups. the shortage of bus drivers, and also let's talk about the school meals. I was brought up that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and as a teacher, I don't think having a cinnamon bun, sour raisins, and chocolate milk is considered a healthy breakfast. Speaking on the younger grade, we stand in line while we wait for our kids to come through. Here recently, shout out to Dr. Madison for coming up to assist us so that we teachers could get the proper amount of time to eat our lunch. We need to understand that this is sometimes our kids' only means of food, and we're not getting it. We have students that look forward to being at school because they know this is the only meal they're gonna get all day. But instead, we want to focus on where Dr. Hall sits. We're showing our community that we're divided, and that should not be the case. During the election, I can recall seeing several signs in the community stating that they're the voice for the students and the teachers. But how can you be a voice for the students and the teachers when you're not being seen? Again, growing up, I can remember seeing Mr. Payne and Ms. Furness coming and building relationships. So take a moment and visit the schools, build a relationship with your staff, and come up with solutions that we can do to better within our district, as opposed to where Dr. Hall sits. Thank you.
Young.
Good evening. I reside on Blossom Road in Hartsville, Virginia. I'm going to discuss this evening as well. Dr. Hall has dedicated a very large portion of years to our schools. And if we move her from the front of the seat, at the front, it's going to be a concern because I'm also a product of the Accomack County Schools as well as both of my children. And it will give the effect of division instead of cohesion. I'm hoping that politics does not have anything to do with what is going on. There should be none because this is about our children. I have one child that has graduated from the Accomack County Schools, and I have another that's going to graduate this year. She has been accepted to the College of William and Mary, and that's because of her teachers, her fabulous teachers. And our teachers need to be respected and provided all that they need, because if we don't do that, we're going to lose them. They're going to go elsewhere. I also have a concern with a representative on the board because I feel like it's a conflict of interest. They work for a local, popular, self-organized newspaper, and I'm very concerned that there could be some ghostwriting that takes place. I hope that's not true, but again, I'm concerned and I feel like politics is involved in our board now, and that's not something I'm used to. Again, I've always remembered that our water supervisor, our superintendent has always sat at the front with the board, always. And I don't think that there should be a change. People are looking at us, they're paying attention, and we don't want to look like we are divided at this time. So thank you very much for your time, and have a good evening.
Good evening, my name is Willie Justice. I live in Hartsville, Virginia. I stand here tonight on Black History 2024 school board meeting, feeling frustrated by what has been mentioned much tonight about the seating for Dr. Hall. Dr. Hall has been a veteran educator for the past 30-some years. We've certainly had our share of interactions with students, and she's earned my respect, and respect that's well deserved. As an advocate for education, I'm appalled at the seeming level of disrespect that will come with moving her from her seat, a seat that she has earned. While the place where she sits may seem trivial to many, as a person of color, it seems kind of discriminating. This board is putting Black history in reverse by the underscored situation, and the Black community doesn't appreciate it. It may not be said much, but it's being talked about. My purpose tonight is to sound the alarm. It's been said, the school district needs as much cooperation as it can get, and doing a divisive move such as this would not be a good look for this district. I wonder, as the first woman superintendent of Accomack County, who happens happens to be African American, why is she not qualified to set where her predecessors are set? We should be leading by example. And if the people who are supposed to be in charge can't respect its leaders, how do we expect our children to respect their leaders? We have enough troubles in this county. We're already struggling with things. Why add a negative persona to something that we need to work on? Again, we have African American history happening right here in this county. We need to celebrate it and not make it divisive. Thank you.
Julie, you're so much taller than I am. Good evening, my name is Colin Burke, and first off, I would like to say that I guess there's a benefit to having myself recording the board meetings, because I can go back and look at things that happened, and people who haven't been here, or have to just go back and listen to them. But, I thought where Dr. Hall sat was over and done with at the last meeting with Ms. Jackson's motion for her to continue sitting at the board with the rest of the people. So for those of you, I thought that was already settled, so I'm happy to hear you all up here supporting her, but I thought that was already voted on and was dead in the water that she moved, so I just thought I would add that in. Tonight I'm here to talk to you about something that I think is very important, that I would think you should revisit, and that is whether or not you return to the schools on your nights that you have your work sessions. When I was campaigning, it was brought up to me multiple times how they did not get to see their board member. It's been brought up on multiple occasions that they would like to see their board members in schools. And I do see that the lady over here spoke a few minutes ago, that lady would like to see the board members returning back into the schools again, whether it be during the day or at least the one meeting a month. Going to the school gives the opportunity for engagement with not only school administration, but staff, students, and parents. You get a feel for what's going on in the buildings. I heard one member say, well, it was too far for them to drive. The majority of you pass by at minimum 3 schools before you get to Metonkin. Some pass by 5. So I don't think it would be too far for you to drive to a school. I also heard we won't be able to broadcast live. Well, that's wrong. You should be able to broadcast live out of any building on the campuses, any of them. And it will not cost $10,000. Personally, I have live broadcasts from Arcadia High School. I've broadcast graduations, proms, cheer competitions. At Chickadee Elementary School, I broadcast live the kindergarten graduations for the last 2 years. There's no reason that you shouldn't be able to broadcast live. Maybe you wouldn't have the fancy TVs, I know this is all wonderful, but at least you would be able to broadcast, and I would be there. I would make sure everything got put online. One thing that I heard also while campaigning, that the board member that is in my district has never been to a graduation on Chickadee, which is disgraceful to me. So, if you all would please revisit that, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Settlement.
Good evening, everyone. I am James Fetterman. I reside on Keller Pond Road, Painter, Virginia. Thank you to all of the board members who are here. I'm not going to beat the horse, but I'm just very concerned about what I read in the Post as I sit in my desk in Richmond. I think that this movement that we're on to talk about where Dr. Hall is sitting, it's actually it's a movement. So what's going to be next? Are the black teachers going to have to come in the back door again? Yes. Are the white children going to get to go to lunch first? I'm concerned, and I am a very successful product of this county. But one thing that I want to heighten our level of awareness on tonight is we're talking about a lot of things, and let's talk about the funding that the educators of Accomack County are receiving. So for fiscal year 2022, the Virginia average salary was $64,427, and the average salary in Accomack County was $57,536. That was a difference of $6,891 that the educators here did not get. So for fiscal year 23, and these are actual numbers, these are not budgeted, these are actual. Virginia, $68,308. Accomack County, $60,352, for a difference of $7,956. And this year, the budgeted number, not the actual, the average teacher salary in Virginia is $70,441. Accomack County teachers receive $61,769. This year, the disparity is $8,672. I think all of the board members soon are going to be removing their seats to come and cover the classes, because there are going to be no educators in the rooms to educate our children. Our students deserve better than what they're receiving. Our students deserve to have the best and the brightest educators across this great Commonwealth. And when I sit in Washington, D.C., and I hear people come and ask me what's going on in Accomack County, that is a disgrace. And as my grandmother used to tell me, I encourage all of you to check yourself and check your own prejudices before you walk through these doors to work for our children and our educators. They deserve better than what we're receiving right now. My name is James Fetterman, and I am a proud product of Accomack County. We've got to do better. Grandma said, when you know better, you do better.
Anyone else for public comment?
Good evening, Karen Downing, Bloxham Road in Parchment, Virginia. I too am a product of Arcadia High School, class of 1981. I come tonight as one with 15 years of experience in human resources and over 12 years experience with the Navy's Lean Six Sigma program, having been trained and certified as a Black Belt practitioner with responsibilities of facilitating teams through process improvement initiatives. Based upon my experience in both of these disciplines, I am both concerned and dismayed that certain topics, namely where the superintendent should sit, would be of such paramount importance to this board as to table other more pertinent and pressing matters. The general powers and duties of the school board are set forth in Chapter 7 of the Code of Virginia. It has been the practice of Accomack County to have the superintendent to sit next to the board chair during meetings for the expediency of presentations of information, responding to questions, and providing on-the-spot relevant information and context as needed during deliberations. As one who works with individuals and organizations with identifying waste and areas for improvement in their processes, I do not see how changing the seating of one hired and evaluated to be the most knowledgeable of the day-to-day operations of the school system and an exceptional subject matter expert will improve the efficiency or the effectiveness of the board meetings. I believe time for the board could be better invested in addressing matters with a more direct impact to the children and the staff of Accomack County. I am Karen Downing. I stand tonight as a private citizen, having no affiliation with any organizations you may know me for. Thank you.
Hello, Alex Vargas, 14384 Shields Ridge Road, Bellhaven. I'd appreciate 3 minutes to speak in my public comment, if that's okay with you. Good evening. I want to follow up on the board's consideration during last public session of whether the superintendent should be seated at a table separate from the school board during board meetings. I want to be clear that this is in no way a personal attack against anybody here. Rather, I really truly like to believe that we all have a shared goal of propelling ACPS forward as a leader in the rural category of Virginia's public schools. So what I'm putting forth now is a case built on a principle of arranging executive officials with respect to their governing body in a manner which promotes transparency and accountability and preserves objectivity in the board's decision making. So why does there need to be a physical separation between the school board and administration? I would have made this case with Mr. Hall there. I don't care if you're white, black, brown, male, female. I believe this is a matter of principle. With separate seating, we are reminded of the roles within the broader picture of our school system. We all have a role to play, and creating distinctions between those roles should in no way be construed as a demotion, relegation, or personal insult. The motivation is to emphasize the distinction between the superintendent's role as an executive leader and the school board's role as a governing body. We want to keep the chain of command clear for both the public, the administration, and for members of the board. All parties need to clearly understand where authority lies at the board meeting. When this understanding is diluted, it will remain unclear who is really making the decisions and whether accountability is even possible. This separation reinforces the understanding that the superintendent is accountable to the board, and I don't care who the superintendent is, that accountability needs to be there. When the superintendent sits immediately with the board, board members may be less likely to hold a superintendent accountable. Sometimes this kind of accountability in our school system needs, by nature, it requires some level of confrontation. We witnessed this in the previous board meeting when Dr. Hall understandably expressed concern objections to the board's consideration of this relocation. Such highly emotional objections in close proximity to board members, whether warranted or not, can negatively impact the objectivity of board members when evaluating motions being considered. When the superintendent sits next to the chair, as they have in the past, this can lead to a perception that the superintendent is in charge of even the board itself. The superintendent is in charge over staff and students in an executive capacity on a day-to-day basis. So the perception of all of us can easily lead to that the superintendent is in charge of the board. So when we sit the superintendent next to the chair, it sends a subliminal message, I believe, to board members and to staff, students, and the public that the superintendent is at least on a peer level with the board. And that leads to diluted accountability, I believe. With regards to precedent, continuing to do something simply because we've always done it in that way isn't a sufficient reason in and of itself. This isn't an exercise in making people feel good or bad, it's about drawing proper boundaries. So I would like to suggest one motion. I'm sorry, 3 seconds of mine were taken because I was having to announce my name and address. I think all of you should have those 3 seconds, all of you.
Just finish your thought.
All right, in light of the board's reconfiguration, I make a motion to move the superintendent's seat at open and closed session board meetings to a separate table located equidistant between the tips of the V. That's it. Thank you for hearing. Appreciate it.
The board will now adjourn to closed meeting.
Board adjourned, closed meeting.